Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game. So, today I got a fun and exciting episode for you guys today. A little bit of Thanksgiving afternoon fun. That is because, as of this week, Valve has been talking a lot more about the overall pricing structure of the new Steam machine. That has definitely been a topic on a lot of people's minds, exactly what Valve is going to try to deliver this thing price point wise. Because I would love to see it come in at around the $600 mark, kind of competing with the Xbox Series X as well as the PlayStation 5 in regards to what the actual pricing would be. We're going to have to take a deep dive into this and kind of read between the lines to get a sense of what the price may actually be, because I feel like maybe Valve is thinking a little bit higher than 600, even though optimistically I still feel like maybe 6 to 650 would be that target price. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But obviously Valve knows how to get manufacturing done because they have sold millions of Steam Decks, and they're definitely doing a really good job of keeping the price under control there. But there is some market volatility on RAM pricing that I'll get into a little bit later in the video that could definitely affect the overall shipping price of the actual new Steam machines. Because right now RAM prices are absolutely dumpster fire insane, more so than I've ever seen in my 25 years playing with computers and building them for myself. But the one thing we do know is Valve is not subsidizing this hardware, and if that doesn't sound familiar as to what subsidizing means, I will definitely explain that in just a moment. But that means Valve is trying to turn a profit on every single Steam machine made. They are not going to sell it at a loss, and they're not going to sell it at par. And my guess for the reason behind that is the Steam machine is just going to be a computer. You could buy one, use it for just basic desktop browsing, some productivity, or even some creative purposes, and never actually buy a single game from Steam, meaning that there would be no revenue source. Compared to something like the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and Nintendo Switch 2, anytime you buy a game on those platforms, even if Nintendo, Microsoft, or Sony didn't make them, they still get a cut of the profits, and they still get a taste of that revenue. Because basically every console is either sold at a loss, which means that they're selling it for underneath what it actually costs them to manufacture and get it to you, or they do it at basically a push, which is to mean they don't make any money, they don't lose any money, it is even. They then make all the money up in the game sales. Think of the razor and handle model. The razor blade is usually expensive as hell, and the handle they basically give away for free. The handle in this instance being controllers and stuff, because if you need new Nintendo Switch 2 Joy-Cons, it's going to cost you a fortune. That is something that Valve is stating they are not doing here, and I can understand why they wouldn't be able to do that because, again, a Steam machine sale does not guarantee that people are going to go over to Steam and actually download games. And even though I would say probably 99 of 100 people that buy this machine would do exactly that, imagine a scenario in which somebody like me had to hire 4 editors to work on a film project and decided, hey, the Steam machine is effective enough of a rendering PC to be able to make this project, and I don't have to build it myself. I could buy 4 Steam machines and just basically render on them, making Valve lose money on each one. The other big, gigantic, expensive, annoying elephant in the room is RAM pricing right now. RAM is absolutely skyrocketed to the point in time where it has left the Earth's atmosphere and is floating somewhere in space. I have never seen a component go this high as far as PC building is concerned. RAM definitely likes to fluctuate, but now with all of the AI data centers basically eating up RAM like it's starving and hasn't seen a meal in a week, it's just absolutely a terrible time to try to be buying RAM. Even something as simple as a 16GB DDR5 module, whether it's laptop or whether it's desktop, we're talking over $120, and those things basically, I wouldn't call them free, but used to be a hell of a lot cheaper. So this is something that definitely can and will affect the Steam machine pricing, even if obviously Valve is going to get OEM manufacturer prices because they're building a ton of them. But my machine right now is 64GB of DDR5. That is a pretty intensive system, but I use it for rendering a lot, so I need that. At the current prices, the cheapest module I can find, which isn't as good as mine, is $647 with taxes. And even though Valve's only installing 16GB and they are getting the actual bulk pricing, not retail, it is still going to be a very expensive component for Steam machines. Because obviously the AMD Zen 4, the semi-custom chip, is derivative of other AMD architectures, and those can be made still at a very appealing price point, especially when you're ordering 250 to 500,000 of them right off the top. You get bulk part pricing, especially for a company like Valve, and this is all negotiated under contract to be able to get a cheaper price. If you pay attention to my Mr. FPJ videos, think of the Mr. Pi from Retro Remake. They're able to make that thing way less expensive than the actual Triassic DE10. That is because they get get contract rates to buy those chips, the Cyclone 5 FPGA chips, in bulk. And trust me, Retro Remake isn't going to be buying near as many as somebody like Valve is going to be buying on that AMD part. So basically all of these things can be had at commodity pricing, and you're going to negotiate the cheapest rate possible. That is why you see something like the actual Steam Deck be a very affordable value proposition, because at its heart it is using a very quasi off-the-shelf part from AMD, and those can be manufactured at a good price. But again, RAM is definitely going to cause this thing to be a little bit squirrely right now, and Valve has stated that they're not subsidizing the machine, which means they want to make money every single time a Steam machine is actually sold, and that definitely limits them trying to get super competitive with the PlayStation 5s, Nintendo Switch 2s, and Xbox Series X of the world. And it was asked to them directly, and they say that the price is going to be similar of you actually building this machine yourself, and that honestly, with me just kind of playing around with PC Part Picker and trying to get about as close as I possibly can, is in like the mid $650 range. But again, Valve is going to get better pricing, so the question is, what sort of profit margin are they trying to get on this thing? And I'm sure even you and I, if we need a new RAM today, would be paying out the ass for that sort of thing. Valve can definitely negotiate, but the reality is they don't have the same negotiating power as other companies that are basically causing this price spike to happen in the first place. Because think of it this way, if Valve needs 500,000 Steam machines ready to go at launch, they need 500,000 RAM modules that are working to be able to put in that, versus the data centers that are eating up all of this RAM and even the water out of Lake Michigan. Because trust me, AI data centers and how they're absolutely just treating Lake Michigan like it's its own little bathtub water supply of free water has been a hot topic in Chicago, because I live exactly a block away from the beach and I don't want my lake being ruined. So outside of AI ruining the prices on RAM, I just don't like it because it's killing creative jobs, and it's also going to start killing our environment locally here. But in way happier news, outside of the environment dying because of AI water usage, there are rumors that Half-Life 3 is going to be announced by the end of the year. This is something that I feel like has always been coming, but of course, if you're like me, and basically everyone else out there who's played Half-Life since the original game, we've been waiting for Valve to figure out how to count to the number 3 for the longest time. And even though Half-Life Alyx is absolutely outstanding and kind of felt about as close as Half-Life 3 that we were ever going to get to, I do love the idea that maybe Valve would release something like Half-Life 3 to coincide with the actual Steam machine. But of course, because it is actually just a PC in a box running SteamOS, I highly doubt, I can almost guarantee, that Valve would never lock this thing down to being a Steam machine exclusive, and it honestly would probably be near to impossible to do that, because outside of some sort of DRM, checking what hardware is installed and only allowing it to run on that, it is just a PC in a box. It would basically be an impossibility. Also, Valve just doesn't seem like the company that would do something like that. But if Half-Life 3 does get announced and it actually is real, this would be even more fun news than the Steam machine, because I just want to know how the saga of Gordon Freeman ends, and if they are making a Half-Life 3, I hope to God that they are basically ending the story there, so we're not thinking to ourselves, oh crap, we're on a cliffhanger, we have to wait for Half-Life 4, and we're all dead and buried in the ground, and our grandchildren are finally getting a chance to play that. All jokes aside, waiting around for a new entry in the Half-Life franchise has been something we've been doing for decades now, because Half-Life 2 is no recent game whatsoever, and even now Half-Life Alyx has been out for some years. People are craving more content in the Half-Life universe, and I feel like this would be a really good reason to pick up a Steam machine, even if you already have a gaming PC. Maybe Valve will even do something like automatically install it on the actual Steam machines that ship as a pack-in title, because honestly this thing will sell millions upon millions of copies if it's actually real. But it's one of those things. This is not the console business model. They are not putting pack-in games and shipping at a loss, hoping that you're going to buy more games from Valve, because even though that's exactly what you're going to do, it isn't a guarantee, and consoles have a completely different ecosystem than PCs, even if at the end of the day, they do like to play a lot of the same games. But even at $700, I think the Steam machine would have a shot, but I still really feel more comfortable at $600 getting market adoption, because that is the thing that Valve needs more than anything else. They need to get numbers on the board to show the industry that a concept like their new Steam machine actually has some viability, because if this thing comes in at $850 or $1,000 and only sells a couple 100,000 units, basically everyone's going to look at it and say, this is still not a viable idea. On the PC side of things, I'll either buy a console for $600, or I'll buy a pre-made gaming PC with a higher spec, or even just roll my own and build it myself. So I don't really know what the price is. I still, in my heart of hearts, feel like 600 to 700 is where it's going to launch at, but we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the RAM pricing. Short of that, happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.